Good evening, everybody. Brian Neubert here from goldenblack.com, live in the CHI Health Center in Omaha, Nebraska, or as the British lady who narrates my GPS calls it, the Kai Health Center, which I think is funny. This is your goldenblack.com rap video following Purdue's 93-87 charity exhibition game loss to Creighton. Thank you to the Purdue Club Hotel, as always, for your support. We appreciate it. As I always say about my viewers and readers, that if you were processing this stuff, if you're watching this, you are both fancy and classy. And if you fit those two bills, if you check those two boxes, the Purdue Club Hotel is for you. So Purdue loses 93-87 in a game that does not count. It counts for experience, but it does not count in the stats. It does not count in the records, anything like that, as you well know by now. No championships were decided here tonight, contrary to Arkansas's belief last year. Just kind of dipping my toe in the water to see how many Arkansas fans are still rage watching this stuff. Anyway, so some quick takeaways from this exhibition game here to complement what I've written below. If you look down, below this video module, you'll see words that I typed. So that's what I'm talking about. So Purdue, I think, has got a lot of assets here offensively. A chance to be another really, really good offensive basketball team. I think Purdue has been one of the best offensive basketball programs in college basketball here the last couple of years. I think it's kind of culture now. I think it's kind of system. I think it's just their infrastructure's in place now to kind of be plug and play here with their offensive personnel. As long as you have great players. And, Purdue obviously had a great player for the last 4 years, and I think it's got three really, really good ones, borderline great ones, now in Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, and Trey Kaufman-Wren, as we've been writing about since last season ended, talking about since last season ended. And I think all three of those guys lived up in this game tonight. All were pretty efficient, all showed off kind of their whole bag of tricks, so to speak. Purdue could have probably used a little bit more in terms of somebody else stepping up and making a shot here and there. Purdue, really the only other guys who scored in the first half were Daniel Jacobson and C.J. Cox. I think you'd probably like to get Miles Colvin a little bit more involved. You'd like to get Camden Heide a little bit more involved. You'd like to get a little more from your centers, probably, in terms of just opportunistic stuff. Will Berg had one field goal. He's not on the floor to score, so talking about his scoring is kind of irrelevant. He was in foul trouble too. Daniel Jacobson made a three, had a dunk in the second half, had some free throws. But I think it would probably be a good thing if Purdue had a couple more guys just chip in a little bit to go around that big three. But the big three is pretty good, and when you look at how much usage all three of those guys got, I don't think anyone overdid it. I think Braden Smith played 100 miles an hour, kind of an Allen Iverson offensive effort, but didn't do anything crazy. I think of the shots he took, maybe a couple of them were a little bit ambitious, but this is the same deal with Carson Edwards and Jaden Ivey that I talked about years ago. Was, sometimes aggressiveness comes at a very, very modest cost, and you want Braden Smith being as aggressive as possible. I think tonight served notice. Again, the game didn't count, but I think tonight served notice that if you didn't think Braden Smith could be like a high-volume, really, really high-end scorer without Zach Edey opening up the whole floor for him, this probably proved you wrong, because he was looking to score every time down, really put Creighton on its heels a lot of the time, and just kind of set the tone for their whole offense. And Fletcher Lawyer did what Fletcher Lawyer does, scoring 17 points on 9 shots, craftily getting to the free throw line a bunch. Trey Kaufman-Wren scored a bunch of different ways. None of them did anything outside of their strengths. Nobody really forced anything. Nobody made bad decisions. And I think the two stats here that I think matter most for Purdue offensively, you look at the big three scoring, 100 points, whatever it was they combined to score. I'm not even going to try to do math real time in my head here. 53, and here I am doing the math. 70 points. They combined for 70 points, the three of them. which is a whole game's worth of points in a Big Ten game. But anyway, I think when you look at the Big Three totaling 70 points, I think the stats that really... Mind your way? Okay. The stats that really matter here are Purdue gets 13 offensive rebounds. Rebounding is a huge question for this team, but the effort, I think, on the offensive glass was pretty good. There were a lot of putbacks that were just kind of tapped around, so that number is maybe a little bit inflated from what it really would be from a practicality perspective. But 13 offensive rebounds is a really good number. 7 turnovers. When you have a really high-volume scoring guard playing point guard, when you've got 2 freshman ball handlers playing meaningful minutes in Ja'Carri Harris and C.J. Cox, and you only turn the ball over 7 times in your first game under actual lights, wearing uniforms, playing against somebody who's not your teammate, I think that's a pretty good number. I think Purdue was decent from 3, 8 of 21. I thought they were a little bit better than that, but that's what the final numbers say. Overall, they shot 48%, but they were well over 50 for quite a while. I think late in the game, that number kind of went south a little bit. So now that we're done talking about offense and talking about stats, where does Purdue have to get better? Now, I want to couch this with a reminder that Creighton is one of the best offensive programs in college basketball. I just said that about Purdue, but I think you can say the same thing about Creighton. They're 2 very similar programs in that sense. I think offense is kind of culture. I think the way they spread the floor, the way they always have skill. Greg McDermott's a great coach. I think that they're just a very, very consistently really good offensive program, even with whatever new faces they had here tonight. I think their guards can always shoot. They've always got a bunch of shooters on the floor. They space the floor. When they've got Ryan Kalkbrenner as a interior threat, and some other guys who really, I think, gave Creighton a physical advantage against Purdue around the basket. And when was the last time you said that about somebody playing against Purdue? I don't think you ever have, at least in the last decade. But that they had kind of a little bit of everything, and Purdue's problem was they couldn't stop the dribble initially. They couldn't protect the paint. All those threes came off inside-outside action, stopping the ball immediately. Would have cut off a lot of that. But then also when you got the ball at the rim, I think Creighton was a little bit better physically. And I think that's just kind of where Purdue is right now. I think they're going to have to outscore some people early in the season. I think they're up to that, but I think that's what they're going to have to do. And they're just going to have to buckle down from a defensive perspective. They're going to have to get better. They're going to have to give better effort. Matt Painter has not been happy with how his team's been communicating. Maybe there's a little bit of the fact that, there are guys playing new positions this year. There are new guys in this rotation that haven't played a whole lot. There are, 4 freshmen in the rotation, at least 3 freshmen in the rotation. There are 5 freshmen on the roster, all in practice. And, maybe that's something that's just part of this team's evolution here in these next couple weeks. But obviously they need to be better. Rebounding needs to be better, although I think Purdue acquitted itself fairly well in that regard. Out-rebounding Creighton, but, no one was missing shots. So it's like, how much did rebounding matter all that much? I don't think Creighton was going all out for offensive rebounds or anything like that. But, it's going to be interesting with lineups because you saw mostly Purdue playing big in this game, and that surprised me because I thought that Painter was going to err on the side of offense and go with Kaufman-Renn at the 5, which I think would be their most optimized offensive lineup. But he started Wilberg. Wilberg picks up 2 fouls. Clearly, as has been hinted around here the last couple of days, is they need him to be physical without fouling. They need his physical presence, but they need him to not foul. And I don't remember how the fouls went. I know one of them was on a rebound. I think maybe one of them was an offensive foul, but that they need to keep him on the floor and give him a chance to show the reason why they've chosen him to be a starter. They need to leverage his physicality by letting him play. And he can't play if he's going to foul. They need him on the glass. They need him as a screen setter and things like that. It's kind of what you kind of the cost of doing business with young big men. And I would call Wilberg young, even though he's in his third year in the program. He's barely played. And I don't know how, what his basketball background before he came to the U.S. really was in terms of really high-end competition and high-leverage games like he's going to be playing for Purdue. I think Daniel Jacobson obviously is not there yet physically, and that's not going to happen overnight. That happens over the course of months and years. But they're going to have to find ways to put him in positions to be successful and things like that. And he's going to have to grow up real quick because, there was a while there in the game, Creighton was going at him offensively, I should say, and having some success doing it. And, skinny guys get picked on. It's just the nature of big boy basketball at this level. And people look at you, Fletcher Lawyer can probably tell you this, and some other, Sasha Stavanovich could probably tell you this, and some of the big guys early in their careers could probably tell you this. Juwan Johnson, when he was a freshman, could probably tell you this. When they see you and you're skinny, they're coming for your head. And, I think Creighton kind of did that for a little while there in the first half, had some success doing it. And the good news is that Daniel Jacobson's going to be better for this. And, you're not going to see a lot of Ryan Kalkbrenners. From here on out, he's a good player. He's a really good player. He's one of the better bigs in all of college basketball, and he sort of did, to a certain extent, to Purdue what Purdue's been doing to everybody else for a decade. I don't know what's going on here. He's kind of giving me the creeps. Well, anyway, so Purdue's got to get a lot better on defense. This was the point of these games. You want to come, and I don't want to say you want to lose, but I think on some level, the players probably don't feel this way, but the coaches love this. Like, this is perfect. Greg McDermott probably felt the same way. He's kind of wired a little bit like Painter, I think. But I think, you want to be humbled, and I think that applied more to last year's team than this year's team, because this year's team is so new. There's no real reason for any sort of, quote-unquote arrogance. I think last year's team just needed to lose and needed to be mad, needed to be pissed off. I think this year's team needed to have its vulnerabilities, thrown in its face. And I think for the most part here at Creighton, that's what happened, because, Purdue gave up 93 points, and for the last 8 minutes of the game, Creighton was running layup drills on back cuts and things like that. And they got so many open looks from three in the first half. They made it look really easy. And, if Purdue has the sort of pride it needs to have the sort of season that it wants to have coming off a Final Four appearance, that needs to hurt on Monday when they watch this game on film, assuming it's Monday. Maybe it's tomorrow. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But, Purdue needs to look at this and really understand that, hey, look, we've really got to get better here. And again, the whole point of games like this, I am talking in circles now, so I am going to just shut it down here. So probably a really good experience for Purdue, and he keeps talking. Probably a really good experience for Purdue, one they're going to be better off for. It's not to say they're going to go to the Final Four again this year like they did last year after losing to Arkansas. But a really good welcome to college basketball moment for the young guys, for the new guys, and a step in the process. This is going to be a process for Purdue, more of a process than it was the last couple of years, even more so than 2 years ago, because you're still figuring out your lineups. You're onboarding a lot of new guys, things like that. So this is going to be kind of one of those seminal moments in terms of Purdue really kind of getting a close-up view of what it needs to be and where it is right now relative to what it needs to be or wants to be. So you won't tell much from the exhibition game next week either, because that's just not even remotely on the same planet competitively as a game like this is. But kudos to Painter and kudos to Greg McDermott. And kudos to all these coaches in college basketball now actually testing themselves in games like this, not hiding behind a closed door at a closed scrimmage where you can just tell people the positive stuff that happened and not really the whole story. and playing high-end competition. This stuff's great for college basketball. Everybody should be doing this, not only for the good cause, but for the basketball development opportunities. So that's what I got here from as my GPS calls it, the Chi Health Center here in downtown Omaha, Nebraska, where I was worried I'd be caught up in riots tonight had Nebraska won at Ohio State today in football, but alas, they did not. Thank you for watching. Thank you for reading. Thank you for listening. And thank you for processing our materials, however it is you process our materials. And thank you once again to the Purdue Club Hotel for your support. As always, we appreciate it. And I will be talking to you guys again next week when Purdue plays whoever the hell it plays in that exhibition. I can't remember. So thanks, everybody.